Hey, if you like Dust War Journals, why not give us some support on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/dustwarjournals, where you can support the show with as little as $1 per month. It really helps us with web hosting and all other stuff. And with that said, on with the show. This is Dust War Journals, episode 27. My name is Johannes, and with me today are...
Magnus, known as Magoff or Magwis on the forums.
And Luda! And my exterior reference today will be I'm in midnight clad. So that's for everyone who knows what that means. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We're coming to you straight from the Luda Cave today.
Yes. It's an historical event, actually. I managed to forcefully force these two gentlemen into my hobby room, which would have been an impossibility.
And we have already found piles of old treasure.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, well...
all manners of magic. And
yeah. And that was not the card game. It was an old Swedish role-playing game. I have to defend myself. You would find magic cards, of course, if you looked close enough, but I've hidden them.
No, I only see Doom Trooper over here.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. An old classic.
Yes, of course. An old Swedish classic, actually.
That's actually true.
Yeah, I don't think many people outside of Sweden actually know that Mutant Chronicles is a Swedish game from the start. Yeah. And it's coming back as a board game. I'm excited about that. I backed that Kickstarter. So that's kind of one of the hobby things that I'm working on, is waiting for that one. I guess that's something that very many people out there can commiserate with, waiting for Kickstarters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very hard work.
Yes, it is. You get sore in fingers by complaining on forums. And
Right.
Yeah.
So
let's get into our hobby stuff. What have you guys been up to lately?
Well, me personally, absolutely nothing, basically. My last month have been just crazy with everything. I know, it's that time of year. It kind of starts for me sometime mid-November usually, with all the holidays, and in my family there's a bunch of birthdays and stuff as well. So it's basically every weekend, and sometimes during the weeks as well.
Yeah, so we had to shuffle things around a bit just to get this recording session going. So
yeah, just crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard times right now, because also on workplaces they're almost always intensive and stuff like that. Well, if I jump in here now, then, because I've already done it, ruined me, but no way. That's just the way I am. I've had not that much of a dust, perhaps, hobby time. I've done some small things. I took a birthday trip to London with my daughter and my girlfriend, and we were to the Harry Potter world. That could be at least some hobby time, and we were, of course, into all the interesting stores in London we want to go to, like Forbidden Planets and
of course,
and stuff like that. And because it's so fun, I know you guys have heard it many times, me complaining about that trip. But just a tip for all you out there: if your daughter has a different surname than yourself, and you're going to another country, and you're not bringing the daughter's mother, make sure you have a birth certificate when you try to get into the customs. And
that's just one of the small hurdles that you had to get through in order to get that trip going. So
yeah, I know. And just I'd like to mention one more thing, and that is, when you get the custom to actually call the mother of your child, make sure she's awake. She doesn't slam the phone and tell them to go F themselves, or so. Because her family is, of course, nowhere abroad. So it was an intense journey for some moments there. So, but actually, more serious hobby time is that Johannes and I have been dabbling in another game. A little bit. We shouldn't talk about that, but it has been for two reasons. The one, it's been good to reminisce because we've played it before, and the other thing is that I've been itching to do a take on one of their systems, the Kill Team format, and I'm trying to put together a way to play some sort of Kill Team for Dust, but still have that Dust feeling, but still get that small unit, special ops kind of attack squad thing that I feel there's still a possibility to do in Dust. So
that's cool. There's a lot of nice ideas in Kill Team that I definitely think you could steal for Dust. Definitely.
Yeah, and of course improve on as well. And also, there's so many good things with Dust. The rule system is really special in its way. So I don't want to do anything crazy with the rules. I want to have the core rules, but just twitch a little bit so it could feel, you got the Dust feeling, but you still get the small unit to kill squad kind of shit. Well, yeah. We can come back to that later if you want to, or if we have the time. I know we have 1,000 things to discuss on this, but if you want to, I can run through some stuff later on.
Yeah, but hopefully, like you said before we started recording, it would be nice to get some kind of play test on this in a not too far distant future.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, getting you guys and some perhaps other ones together and play test it before the end of the year, and we can really perhaps produce something that, or give something on our forum perhaps, or something like you can read and try yourself.
Really cool. Yeah, I've been working a bit on my terrain. I got my airbrush spray booth set up in a nice way.
Nice.
I got some ducting going to ventilation points in my wall, so I just remove the filter there and just get the hose straight up, so all the emissions from the spray booth just go straight out the building. So that's really, really good. That helps a lot for getting stuff done, especially stuff like terrain. So I've been working a bit on doing a cultist-themed dust board.
Nice.
Yeah, and I also get some very nice little crystals, some little kind of purplish crystals going that would work really cool for like objective markers or maybe special terrain or something. Make a scenario around those in a way. I don't know. I have some ideas going. And of course, I have to admit that I've been kind of sinning a bit as well. I've been looking together with some other of our Dust Viking friends at another war game, which kind of features some smaller tanks and like some Cold War era stuff.
Yeah. But that's such a great bridge with that game, because it's where we're getting there, but with a cult twist
in a way. Yes, yeah, you can, of course, you can inject some stuff into that as well if you want to, but definitely. So yeah, maybe doing a bit more of that later on, we'll see. But at the moment, my big Dust project, now that I'm waiting for the new Desert Scorpion stuff, which is coming up, is just trying to finish that cultist table.
That's and you got that really nice now cultist army where it's almost everything is premium, and it's just it oozes the way it looks. It's just magnificent.
Yeah, I agree. It looks fantastic. We'll get back to how it plays.
No, it's so fun to play against.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm altruistic in that way. I bring the fun to my opponents. Yes. Let's go in and talk about some news.
Yes,
there's been some new releases. Of course, yet another version of Angela. This is the third version we've seen of the new Angela sculpt. So this is again a standing version with a sniper rifle kind of aiming. So there you now have a lot of options. And there's also been the first version released of the Rosie Soldier 2 sculpt, which is great news for Ranger players.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is, I think it's going to be one of my kind of favorite new models. It's, those small details that makes her so valuable. I'm looking forward to put her in my Ranger army.
Yeah, both her and the Angela models, they are so smart when they do this, because you don't know which one you want. It's like you really get that annoying feeling to know, I think I have to
have to buy them all.
Yeah, I don't.
The annoying thing with Angela, well, of course, you can make do with one, but with Rosie, you want both. You want both the Soldier 1 and the Soldier 2.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And, of course, the big thing that happened recently, the release of the Avatar of Cthulhu, the limited edition resin version. So, yeah, the first kind of thing we see about this enormous and huge model. And unfortunately, this is really not for most gamers because it's an unpainted resin kit and it's $120.
But I feel that's a good thing as well. It's not for everyone. You don't have to face them on every battle.
Well, we do know that there is a standard plastic version coming as well at some point in a few months, I suspect.
Because, this is the same as the
Avatar.
Exactly, as the first Avatar. It's a special edition resin model.
Yeah, the difference here is that the special edition was released first in this case, which is the other way around with the other. But I suspect that when this gets released, I'm guessing that it will be in a similar pack to the Avatar of Nyarlathotep. So we get this big one and probably the two smaller spawns, the spawns of Shub-Niggurath, in a box. That's my guess, at least.
And you know what? Just a spontaneous thought here from me. I think actually they have to now start producing cards equally big as the first version of the game for these special monsters, because there's so much wounds on them now, so to be able to cram everything in on it and to be able to see this beautiful miniature, they have to start producing the big. And I do remember Paolo writing something on the Facebook a few years back that he actually liked the older, bigger versions of cards better than the smaller ones. So I mean, Paolo, you have to do big cards for the big monsters now.
Yeah, at least double-sized. That would be really cool.
Just for the special editions or something.
We can hope, And the final release that's actually available at the time that we're recording, the Lancia Fiamma conversion set. And this is one that I personally am very much looking into getting a couple of, because I just love this model. I love the stats of it. I definitely want to play it. The premium dustified version of it has been impossible to get for quite a while. And this is just a $15 kit. I think that's kind of been a point of contention for some of the older kits that many people felt that they were at the more expensive end. This, I feel, is just right. $15 for the conversion kit, and then you get I think this is a pretty cheap kit. It's an Italeri kit, if I remember correctly.
I'm fairly certain it's
so if you can find it, that's the problem with some of these, but it's a very nice model and it's a very cool unit. It's a bit strange if you look at the stats because of the rear-mounted machine gun on it, but you can get around that by just running around in reverse. There's nothing in the rules that prevents you from doing that, of course.
Yeah, with the turret fix there on the other weapons, it's an easy way to get around it.
Yeah, so cheap 2-range flamer mounted on a car. Yeah, what can go wrong? Famous last words.
Yeah, built to last.
And of course, tomorrow, as we record this, we expect the big Wave 10, as the studio calls it, to hit the official web store. It's already available at certain retailers, so people have already got their hands on this. Yeah. So this is the really big one. This is the IGN starter. It's the IGN Gembu and Basan. It's the IGN Kill Squad. It's the Desert Scorpion starter. It's the Desert Scorpions Kill Squad. It's the Sarnai and the Grom, the big chopper for the PLA with the pilot. It's the Migo Raiders for the Mythos. I'm personally very much looking forward to these. And, of course, the Hellgate book.
Yeah, well, it's so good that everything comes at once there, so you don't have to choose from anything. You just have to...
and especially now after the big kind of shopping fest with Black Friday and everything, when people don't have any money left. So.
No, I didn't buy anything on Black Friday. I kept my cool because I knew. But then you have to survive the next coming month as well, so I actually think I'm just going to go easy and do the Grom thing and keep myself pure for the Russian Heart, and then
that's good.
And then I'll leave the Samurais and the Desert Scorpions for next year.
Yeah, I'm kind of still working out in my head what's going to be in this kind of wave of ordering stuff for me, because like I said earlier, too many games.
Yeah. Great, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's awesome that the Japanese are finally releasing. I mean, how long haven't we really been waiting and hoping to see them? And
it's been
and now they are
years.
here. Yeah.
And even when I started playing the game, you two are already veterans, and I know that when I started the game, the kind of buzz was the Japanese are coming next year. And then next year arrived, and then, the Japanese are coming next year.
Yeah. That's
it's always been, and now they're actually here. And it's not even next year yet.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Next year I'll be...
But actually, it depends on the shipping from Hong Kong. They'll probably be here next year for us.
Yeah. I don't know how much... I hope Marek gets everything tomorrow.
At least for pre-order, they should be up at warfactory.pl. Definitely for Europeans. Definitely. Then I don't really know logistically how fast things get shipped out. That I don't really have that insight. So hopefully it's definitely possible for people in Europe to get it this year. So hopefully no more waiting there. So that's all of the new releases. So let's go over to what I think is going to be the big section in this episode. It's time for Mail Call. We've got a ton of really cool and interesting questions for this episode. So let's just go straight head into this, because there's a lot of really interesting meat to kind of start chewing up here. First off, we got a question from Oliver Galka, who asked, how do you imagine the Vril faction? What vehicles or infantry would they have, and what would be the special weapons they could use? Well, we know a bit about the infantry.
Yeah, they're going to be very different type of infantry.
Yeah, it's going to be like the standard, the Greys, those big bulbous kind of globe-headed aliens. Yeah. If you played XCOM, you know about these guys. There's going to be 4-armed gorillas. That's from I've heard. That's from John Carter.
For the orc feeling.
Yeah, there's going to be giant women. We've heard about that fairly recently. Yeah. So it's going to be just kind of amalgamation of really, really weird and cool stuff.
Yeah, flying saucers and stuff.
Flying saucers is probably, and I could say I could say for my money, what I would like to see for the walkers are tripods.
I was just going to say that, didn't Olivier mention that they will have something very different to walkers, because the Vril walkers are, really old school, really old tech.
That is true.
Yeah, you always get this sense when they were talking about it that they will like zap onto the field, because they were going to play totally different. No way like anything else. They're going to move in a different way, act in a different way, have different kind of weapons, and everything supposedly to be new. So I'm thinking
hovercraft or something.
Yeah, that could be it also.
That kind of goes very well together with the idea of flying saucers. So so something based on that with a ton of different models, that could definitely be something that's in the cards.
Yeah, and I just love that thought of those gigantic women, hopefully as big as the Cthulhu monster, so you can have like a grudge boxing match when it's like King of Tokyo.
The 50-foot woman versus Cthulhu. That's just wow.
Swashbuckling out. I would love that.
Personally, I kind of try to not think about or have like specific expectations. I want to be surprised.
That's
I want to see what they
idea.
come up with. And to me, Dust Studio, they have a history of coming up with some really cool stuff. Something maybe not be that spectacular, but they do things with their own twist anyway. They do things, you have seen kind of that before, but they always bring some new spice with
That's
it.
Very true. And I think about the previews that we've seen this year from upcoming stuff. People have been saying for quite a long time that they want tanks. They want more tanks for the conventional armies, and the official stance has always been no, it's walkers. That's what's going on.
The game,
But now we know that there are more tanks coming for all of the original factions. But the interesting thing here is is that all of them have a dust twist. Everything is specialized in some way that wasn't made in real life. It's prototypes that weren't actually finished. It's stuff like that. And that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. I love that because it really makes the game its own identity in that way.
Yeah, and I just like to put it out there once again that to me it's extremely nice that they do this, if they do that, John Carter or Mars reference, because I so enjoy. Okay, I haven't read all the books, that I have to confess, but I have managed to read a little bit of it at least, and I enjoy it extremely. And since it's so clear that it's one of the foundation for many of our sci-fi stories out there, that's the contemporary. So those if those four-armed gorillas, orcs, whatever you want to call them, monkeys, if they come, it will be so great. So
all right. So let's go to next question. Comes from our dear old Viking friend Mats, and Mats is asking: is the starter set Kampfgruppe Florentine a good start for Luftwaffe, or should I start with something else? Well, that's actually a good question. I think that depends on how you want to play your Luftwaffe force. If you want to get into Luftwaffe to be competitive, then I don't think you want to go with the Florentine box. Because, well, if you go through them unit by unit, Florentine herself is really only good as an officer. She's decent as an officer, but as like anything else, as a support unit or as an attack unit, she doesn't really do enough to justify her points, I feel. But putting her in a command vehicle, just so you can get those points for your faction and then use the block points for something else, yeah, I could see that. The battle squad, the Crows, those are also decent. They're not super good in any way, but they're okay if you want to play with Raketentruppe. They're cheap. That's also always a good option. And then finally we got the PAC RSO, the airdropped kind of tractor with the PAC gun on it, the anti-tank gun. And the consensus on this seems to be that it's crap. from the players that I've heard that play Luftwaffe, unfortunately.
Well, I have three different takes on this. First off, Mats might be old, but he's forever looking young. The second of all, Mats, you shouldn't play any more Germans. You should come to the real side and play some Allied or some SSU. You need this. It's for your self-esteem, if nothing else. And third off, of course you should go with this starter set, because you know now, after Johannes has made his little attire there, that you will always, every win will be special for you. So you have nothing to prove if you go with this. So it's an absolute splendid starter box for you, Mats. Go with it.
From all we've heard, the Luftwaffe is a high-skill army if you want to do well with it. You have to pick the right combinations for your army, and you have to play it very, very well in order to do well. Or you can just have luck with your dice. That's also an option.
Yeah, well, that's always a good way of winning a game,
Yeah.
I'm thinking a little bit that, I mean, most Luftwaffe armies that we've seen, at least what I've seen on tournaments, they are the Fallschirmjäger.
Yes.
Yeah. Not too many people play a Raketentruppe-based army.
Nope.
No, and I'm not sure if that is because the Fallschirmjägers are simply better, or if it's because people think they are cooler. It's much, cooler to airdrop everything.
It is.
I'm not sure exactly why. And this is just the feeling I have. I think you could build a pretty powerful Raketentruppe-based army. And if you plan on doing that and not playing that many airdropping units, I think this is a good starter.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
But if you say, no, I want to play the Fallschirmjäger and I want to drop everything, then, I don't know, this probably is not a starter you want to pick up.
No.
So...
So I would say if you are planning to use at least 2 of these units in your army, then it's a good idea to pick it up. And then, of course, you also always get the extra things like the dice and the mat and stuff that you can keep or you can sell to someone else.
Yeah, it also depends on the person. I know, I mean, Mats already has a whole bunch of stuff. I don't think he needs some more dice, really. But if it's a new player, then all that stuff is really good, of course. You need that. So it depends on the player as well.
All right. Next question is a big one. It comes from Troy Tepes on Facebook, and this is, what is the best way to run a campaign in Dust? Wow. Yeah. We were talking about this kill team idea of yours before, Luda, and I think that's an option, but that again is something that is very different from normal Dust, basically, from how you've described it, at least. So I don't think that's what he's looking for here.
No, I don't think at all. We have unfortunately haven't been running any campaigns in Dust in our communities.
Not at least any long term. There's been some narrative tournaments. That's kind of mini campaigns, but that's basically how far we've gone.
I like the thing that were produced from Fantasy Flight in the Warfare rule books. I didn't find any fault in that, at least. But so it's hard.
I think it really depends on the situation or the circumstance. So if you have a gaming group and you want to play a campaign, you really need to think about your gaming group. How many players are there? What kind of players? What do they like? So you have to kind of tailor make it.
Yeah. Do you have the strength or the tenacity to build special terrain for this torn? Or do you want to make it? Do you just want to take what you have and just run with it and have some sort of bonuses for every game? Or I mean, it's so much depends on your needs in your group. I'm a sucker for those maps. The few times when I've been able to play some campaign in some games, when I can see where my troops' main headquarters is.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Whatever type of campaign you choose, a map is always a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play a long campaign over several weeks or even months. And in that case, a map is really good to keep as, the focus of the campaign, basically, so everyone remembers what happened last time and everything. Or if you're running a small campaign, or like a narrative campaign or some sort of tree campaign where one battle just leads to another for a couple of rounds, even then a map is a good idea because it gives you some kind of like visual appeal, so it's not just, words on a paper.
Also a reason why you want to buy that account group Florentine, because you have a lot of maps and you can use that map to be the map, and you can like draw on that map, and you can have a real.
Talking about maps, I think I've seen this for other games, and I think you could do something similar for Dust. The kind of thing where you do a team-based mega game where you got a few players who are the generals. And they are centered around a big overview map, and they are giving orders to their different other teammates, which are in a completely different room, playing the actual matches. And then they send like messages back and forth to see what are my orders, which player am I going to fight against, and at which point. And then the generals are trying to like attack different areas of the map and such. Like it might not be that good if you do with the standard 100-point armies, because it would take forever. But if you do it with smaller armies, and then you maybe take turns being the general, something like that, I think that could be really cool if you do something like that for Dust.
Yeah, that definitely. Just to have, that's why you do the campaign, to me at least, that you want that effect, that what I do here and now will affect someone else or myself in the next game, or
and I think
better if it affects Magnus and you. Or
absolutely. And I think another point is that many sort of campaign systems for a lot of war games have this kind of snowball effect. If one player wins a match, they get some sort of bonus for the next match. And I think that idea in itself is good. The problem is that then that player can have an enormous bonus by the end of the game, and it's just, well, they've won all the matches, of course they win. So maybe you can get, of course, still a small bonus for each match, but still make it possible to, even if you've lost all the matches, if you go to the final mission, you can still win if you win that mission.
Exactly. That's I mean, that's like a common concept in a lot of games, that you need some kind of catch-up mechanism. So, you know, if you plan on playing, let's say, 5 rounds or something, and after you played 2 or 3 of them, you know that you have no chance of winning, then what's the fun playing the last couple of rounds? So you need some kind of mechanisms to mitigate that.
And now I'm totally busting this subject out of the ballpark here, because I just realized that my both compadres here, Magnus and Johannes, is actually lying out of their asses when they're sitting here and doing this podcast, because they have both had some hobby time which they haven't shared with us so far. Johannes was playing the Dutch Masters and hasn't said a word.
The German Masters.
Fuck you. No, sorry. Okay, German Masters. Sorry, all people of Germany, please don't take offense. We know what happens. No, sorry. I had to. I already stepped into it, so why not keep on? Okay. And Magnus, actually, when we were so irritated we couldn't go to the German Masters, we consolidated with each other and a third friend in your absence, Johannes. We dressed Eric like you, and we played some board games, and that just...
Oh, was that why I couldn't find my cap that day?
Yeah, that's why the cap was gone and other things, but as you know, as we know, perhaps, your wife has graciously told us she won't tell you about it, so don't fret about it. It's no problem. No, but seriously, we were just talking when we were playing those board games about just games that we tire of because we see that someone is winning after the first turn, and we were having a big debate about some of the games we were playing that day, if they were games that you could see it was over on turn 2, and if it was like some other popular games that are very popular on Board Game Geeks, for instance, but we feel perhaps it's a little bit easy to win if you are,
it's a very difficult balance, that subject, actually, because a good game, in my opinion, a good game should take skill into consideration. Like, a good player should be able to win more consistently compared to a bad player. Yeah. But still, there should be some kind of random effects. I mean, in Dust, of course, we have the dice. The dice can sometimes really screw you over or save your day. You thought you were going to lose, but something happens and you come out with a win. But in a campaign, I mean, each game should not be the end of it.
No, definitely.
So it's important to have both. If you are losing, you should be able to catch up and still win by the end. Or if you are winning, big the first time, you shouldn't feel safe. You should be able to lose even if you get a really good head start. So.
Yeah, and I start to think now even more because of the question now. So I'm tying this back. I actually have some unconscious red thread here in my brain, because I'm thinking about the game we played with the planets, and it's like systems of planets you were going to, and in those systems there were hidden planets that you had turned upside down, and on the backside of them, which you didn't see, were certain attributes that you get resources or could find mystical alien shit on them. And that was very good because you had no rules to put any number of planets around every sun in every system. So every system could be any size of different planets. So, and this, to me, I'm to see if I can put this in a way that you understand what I'm talking about here, listeners, that if you have a campaign where, different areas are different big, a different amount of squares.
Yeah, they're worth different for the winner or for the loser or something like that.
The big thing here was with this game, it was hidden. So when I traveled to this planet, I could look at it and I knew what was on the planet, but it's stayed hidden for you others.
Oh, yeah, so you could bluff people out.
Yes,
and
so I can start, put a base on a planet, and you might think, oh, I have to go there and try to take his base from it, but it was like a ship planet, or something like that for Dust. I mean, so like you could have hidden, I think that would be very fun, that just by going to a place, I get some information, so it's not the end of the world. You don't lose the game just because I know some stuff, but it makes me feel special. And we can have a battle when you try to find out what do I know, and it just leads to numerous things. So that's why I hope you could follow some of the trails here.
So basically, to kind of summarize, we don't have a clear answer, but we have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, in the end, I think it's all comes down to your play group. How many people are there? How long will the campaign be able to be played? Do you have some kind of moderator? If you do, then you can have some of that stuff that Ludde just mentioned. Some hidden information. If you have a moderator or a game master, so to say, that could be a really fun. I've actually played kind of that, but a long time ago, and it was really fun. But it really took some dedications out of that moderator to really drive the campaign forward and to do some bookkeeping and stuff. But it all depends on your play group.
Yeah, and all us who take part in those campaigns, make sure to thank that moderator, because sometimes you just play and then you get perhaps irritated that I didn't win this game, this is a shitty campaign. But take a moment, think about all the work they put into the campaign and give them some love, because it's
organizers, moderators, those kind of people who actually do the work to make your fun work.
Yeah.
Those people are unfortunately a bit underappreciated sometimes.
Definitely. They're always unappreciated, not enough appreciated, you could say. All the tournament organizers, for instance, that I've been to, I haven't thanked them enough for the organizing that friggin' tournament. So anyone who have ever visited and played your tournament, if I hadn't said thank you enough, take this as many times as you want. Thank you.
So you can just cut that bit out and put it on a loop. And
that's. I recommend that for most people. Just record some of the things I say and then put it on loop, and you can have me with you all the time. I mean, how could it be better? To me, it's a utopia. It's like heaven or something. I don't know.
Well, some sort of heaven, I guess. All right. Next question comes from Johnny Grogan. Johnny is asking, do you guys have an outline for creating your own scenarios? As I would like to hold events in the near future, and I would like to create my own. Is there a basic structure you use? And he also calls you out, Ludde. Keep on keeping on. You're a funny dude, man.
Oh, yeah, well...
Well, to each his own.
Yeah, definitely. Johnny, you need help, man. I'm sorry for you, but cheers for that. It's always nice to have your little pictures sent from your games and all your comments. It's a lovely thing, man. Keep up the good work you're doing. Definitely, if it comes from no surprise, I guess, I have no fucking structure when I do it. It helps me just to see, what do I want to play? Like the last time when we had a mini tournament. What is fun? What was fun thing to do? And for some reason, I really think that one has played so many games, so unfortunately, one have learned what is good, what works. So you pick something together and you see the pattern for some reason, even if you don't understand it yourself.
And I think a lot of people tend to overthink it as well, because it doesn't really have to be that complicated.
No.
And you can take inspiration from a lot of different places. Just look through scenario guides for other games, and you can come up with ideas, mix and match, and make something work. And just try it. Try it out and see how it works. I'm in the process right now because I'm working on scenarios for Dust Nordic. Yeah. So I'm just in that zone at the moment.
Well, I've many times used, for instance, the Axis and Allies miniature games, the Hexagon game, which I still have tons of miniatures in a wardrobe in another room. And they had some great way of doing scenarios, and you can just translate hexagons to squares and you fight for them. It works wonders. Those actually transcends very good to non-gridded play as well. So I can recommend, even if they are made for hexagons, splendid scenarios for non-gridded. We have, of course, old campaign books from that game 40K, which you like have how many scenarios as well. You take those and then perhaps do some modification to suit Dust. But as you said, any game that has scenarios, just look at it. It's not that hard to just bend it a little bit or tweak it, and then works like charm.
Absolutely, and also you could choose how detailed you want it to be. Usually, the way we do scenarios for tournaments is without specified terrain, because we usually do all the tables are completely different. But you can, of course, do the opposite thing, and we've done that as well. But it's not this kind of standard. But sometimes we do, and then it's usually a kind of specific idea. I'm thinking like the Last Days of Summer tournament that we had last year, where we had that forest table, which was just an enormous amount of trees, basically. That was really cool and really visual and really different. So you can do stuff like that.
Yeah. I actually just because it was Johnny who asked us, he sent us some pictures of a game they played, and on that typical game, they had not that much terrain, and I was giving him some stick about it just for the fun of it. But he actually, when you think about it, having since we always have so much terrain, I myself would love to play almost an empty table once, or just like 4 terrain pieces or something. How would I react?
Yeah.
I would be.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, but just how would you do it?
I think that's kind of a difference between the European play style and the American play style. If we go by the pictures that we see on Facebook and such, it seems that here in Europe we usually like to play with a lot of terrain. And in the US it seems like it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, but we actually have differences here in Sweden as well, because in Linköping they have almost half the amount of terrain like we have in Gothenburg. So we have differences, even though Linköping has, I think, double the amount of most American games, or at least what we see on Facebook. But as you say, double the point, half the points.
And
a quarter of it.
And that's a really good point. Just experiment with amount of terrain, experiment with size of the game board, experiment with the amount of army points, because all of these changes actually do a lot to make the game feel different. You wouldn't expect it to do, but it actually does in Dust. A 60-point Dust game is completely different from an 80-point Dust game. And it's just 20 points. That can't be a lot of difference, but it is.
Definitely.
And you don't really know how different it is until you've tried it.
And very important, like you all heard this, but just to tie it all together, like Johannes said in the beginning, very smartly, make it simple. Only do one of these in each scenario. Don't try to cram every good idea into one scenario, making one super scenario, because that will go foobar in an instant. One thing in each scenario that makes that little thing tick, and I guess you will have more fun then with 5 of those scenarios than all 5 things in one.
Yeah.
My little add to this discussion, very interesting, by the way, from you guys. My little addition would basically be, first, what kind of event are you planning to run? Is it a tournament, or is it some other kind of I don't know, demo games, or just a narrative, or a big battle, or whatever. And from that, create your scenario. And then, like the other guys here said, you can use ideas from wherever, get some inspiration. Personally, it's been a while since I created a new scenario, but when I did, it was for tournament. So I started simply by using kind of the same structure as the official scenarios that the studio come out with, and just like copy paste the headlines there. So you have this setup, how do you set up the scenario, any special rules or anything that you need or shouldn't do or whatever, and then a little bit about deployment, how do the forces deploy, and then the winning conditions, what's the objective, why are they fighting. So that's, I mean, those things should be there anyway, no matter what type of scenario, what type of event you are running. those, you need those things.
And just cutting in there as well, because this very, 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 very important, very, very wise words from Magnus there, because we have played a lot of nice, interesting scenarios. We shouldn't perhaps call names on people, but we have very creative people who do very interesting scenarios. But like me, unfortunately, they tend to not be so clear as Magnus always is. Magnus is always super clear, so when you read your scenario, you know what the fuck you're doing. But we have played scenarios when you halfway through realize, okay, some information was missed, and the creator was so clear in his head, he just didn't understand that he had to put that in writing, because me and Johannes here couldn't understand that was what happened in this scenario, because we didn't create it. So very, very good, Magnus. Please, everyone, just write it clearly. Look at Magnus scenarios; they're exemplary on how you do shit like this.
Thanks. I try my best, but it's it's difficult to write these things. It's the same as when you're writing basically rules for stuff. I mean, writing a rule book is super difficult.
Oh yeah.
Because even if you know exactly how it's supposed to be played, other people will not, and it's very difficult to get everything in a clear manner so that other people understand it. So, but like I said, it depends. If you're running a tournament, keep it simple and try to be as clear as possible. If you're just doing some kind of narrative event where you are going to be like a moderator, where people can ask you questions, that's fine. You don't have to be super clear in that situation. Just, work it out as you go.
Absolutely. Next question comes from good friend of the show, Ben. Ben asks, what kind of terrain do you see coming for the Pacific, and do you think they will do a different kind of base or stick to the cracked desert base? Well, I kind of thought this through, and I have a hard time figuring out how they can change out the bases, because they've done, for the premium models, they've done that cracked thing with the bases since the game started. So if you should do some kind of variation on that, what could that be that would fit in a Pacific sense? I was thinking, well, the cracked sand, the desert stuff, that would work for like beaches and such, but if you want to do it in another color, it wouldn't really work. You could do like green for undergrowth or grass or such, but it wouldn't work with the style, with that cracked.
No, maybe a slightly darker brown or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they made those anastyr bases, which I love, and I actually would have loved to buy more because I use them in other games also, especially the little bigger ones are very good in other games. But I could see them perhaps making some, because now they, especially the new guy there who makes all the wonderful new Cthulhu, the sculptor, or I don't know the fuck about him. So, but he looks like a great guy. He does great sculptures. That's what I mean. So nobody misunderstands. But what he does, all those little stones and shit on his bases. Perhaps we could see like there are some plants, or they perhaps some, because they should be able to do some holes, and you can have them special mini plants that you could stick onto them, so you get that special little.
There could be tree stumps or roots and stuff like that. Yeah,
that ought to be, or perhaps even then be exclusive or something in the worst case scenario that you have to buy them directly from the website. But hopefully they could do like special set of bases.
Yeah.
Because that could be really, really cool thing.
If we go back and go to the beginning of the question, if we look at what kind of terrain could we expect from a Pacific kind of theater?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I'm thinking trees, like more type. I mean, you can use palm trees, I guess, but more types of trees would be interesting. I'm not sure if the studio would do that because they haven't really done.
No, they haven't done any trees. Trees have always come from other places, so that would be nice.
But at the same time, trees are used like widely in the game.
Yeah.
Trees are very common, and they are popular.
I'm thinking stuff like wooden huts. That would probably work.
Wooden huts. I could also see like some Asian style buildings. You have both, Japanese and Chinese.
some harbor stuff maybe, like bridges and like wharfs, stuff like that could be a thing.
Yeah, anything to get that amphibious charge on small island kind of feel. But that depends also how will the warfare in the Pacific be? Will it be the standard World War II war gaming? Or is it going to be influenced highly by the Cthulhu and be very different story-wise than perhaps the small bridges and landing places? And,
you know what I'm actually thinking now when you're talking about that thing, and going to the Pacific, I'm thinking volcanoes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That could be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I would like those, but perhaps that's not. Perhaps there should be units then. But I mean, like a take on the bunkers. But you know that Japanese foxholes things they had when they were like dug in like shit and like a pit. But that's hard to also. That's more 2D perhaps then, because they want to come up through from the ground and stuff like that. That would be nice at least, but I guess it's the growth, the trees, the bushes, something like that with something easy. But
it's a difficult question.
We'll just have to wait and see. I do think that there's a lot of possibilities there, but we just have to wait and see if we actually get there. Okay, next question isn't really a question, it's more of a statement. It's come from Bill Hegg, and Bill is saying, you should do a Facebook live stream or upload a game session to YouTube. Yeah, we've actually thought about doing that. So that's kind of in the cards, as I told him on Facebook.
It's only the visual thing there is going to be not even a parental guidance on that one. It's you gotta have to have some special log into that with adult content.
Oh yeah, X rated.
Yeah.
No, we'll see. We've been looking a bit. I've been looking a bit at the technical side of it, and I have some thoughts about how to do it so you can get both the visuals and also the audio. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
So that actually works in a good way, because it's very annoying to just hear some random voices in the background and just seeing some dice. That's so it's more work than people might realize if they haven't tried to do one themselves. But it's something that's in the pipeline, definitely. All right, Joshua A. Hatch is asking, as a player just getting into Dust, what are your recommendations and thoughts for using reactive fire? Is it too risky if it fails? Critical to catching your opponent, flat-footed, only to be done early in the round, so you can recover or charge target priority if it goes poorly. So yeah, do we feel that reactive fire is worth it, basically?
It's worth it that it is a rule. It's one of the best rules, actually, I think, in the game, because you get so frustrated every time, because you always choose the wrong one. If you don't shoot, you get killed. If you shoot, you're not allowed to shoot because you miss with the dice, and then the idiot don't hit you, even if it's like a gazillion dice and your troop's still standing there, and you could just mow him down. So
yeah, I think it's a very good rule, because it's a rule that really puts your decision-making skills to the test. Sometimes it's simple. You know that, okay, I'm going to attack that unit with this unit. He's definitely going to destroy it. Okay, I try to do reactive fire because why not at this point?
Yeah.
But then there's some other kind of situation. They might not destroy it, and I have a better chance if they actually survive to make a counterattack. Do I choose to do it or not? And it's a source, like you said, of a lot of frustration, but also some of the most intense just turnarounds that can happen. I still remember one game where I managed... I usually roll extremely poorly on my reactive fire dice rolls. But at one time, I had Winterchild charge a Heinrich, one of the light Heinrichs even. And he was pointing the other way, so he couldn't even turn around unless I got both dice. And just, well, he's going to kill it anyway, so I might as well. And of course, I roll both dice, I turn around, I shoot, and I actually... kill Windchild. That shouldn't happen. those are the kind of moments that you really remember.
That's also my opinion, that it's a fantastic rule, and it for me it's a kind of, it's one of those really defining mechanisms in the game that makes it. I mean, there's a lot of things that makes Dust special, but this is one of them definitely, because it's to me it's just right. You have, slightly more than 50% chance, like 55% chance of getting at least one success, which is normally, you want at least one. Of course, if you get two, that's super. But anyway, that's usually your decision. Do I try now or not? And that rule alone gives you so many interesting decisions. And also, of course, it gives the enemy, the opposing player, a lot of interesting decisions as well. So to kind of answer his questions, it really depends on the situations. Sometimes it's obvious, because when Lara and her boys advances and they're going to roll 50 plus dice against you, you're probably going to die anyway. So why not try and take one or two before? Yeah. So, but in a lot of situations, it's not that obvious. So there's no right or wrong answer in a lot of situations. You just have to feel. Do you feel lucky?
Yeah.
Well, do you?
And then you see that other thing. Do he place his units there because he wants me to reactive fire with my unit, if I reactive fire and succeed, will that disrupt his thought process, and will that hinder him, or is this just a one-off move? I mean, it's so many layers on layers. Do he know what I think he knows that I know what he knows?
Exactly. You can use it. That's a really good point, that you can use it as a kind of tool to draw out an opponent or make him,
waste an activation, basically.
Possibly, or at least activate a unit very early and make them not move.
Yeah.
That's usually how I think, especially when I play against you, Luda.
Okay, mental no. Okay. What did you say now again?
No, but
play
still.
It back, Johannes. I've already.
Usually, at least when we play tournaments, you tend to play fairly fast armies. I think you like armies that that at least they can move quickly, like the Spetsnaz and stuff like that. That's. I don't know. That's maybe just an opinion. I don't know.
No, it was very much that before you got pregnant, so to speak, or rather your wife did. So you had a little break there. But
fine.
So when I played a lot of infantry 2s allied, then of course I was a slow-moving ship. But I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but even then you tend to play those guys that have like 3-4 movement.
Yeah, well,
which they are. That slightly higher movement make them more aggressive, because you need to. That's their weapon. And to get back to it, in that situation, I know that these guys are dangerous. That unit, you could possibly push it up, or you could grab the objective or whatever it is. So in those situations, sometimes I basically sacrifice a unit to make you.
Rethink my plan,
exactly. That you have to do this because this is your knife that you are stabbing with right now.
Yeah.
So to kind of draw a reactive fire. That's sometimes your purpose, and I think it's exactly right. And of course, all the units with the special rule, advanced reactive fire.
I was going to pick that up if you didn't, because that's an overlooked skill. I think that's incredibly good. Yeah. It's much better than the normal reactive fire rule.
Yeah, an interesting also combo that I have seen none other play, but it is kind of weird. So I understand. It's having those mercenary broads, the machine guns, and put silence in it, because they all have now. Silence also have advanced reactive fire. They shoot the same range. She boosts them with lives, and it gets really weird. But when you have a sniper that reactive fires at you, it's not that fun,
No, and you're thinking about those the machine gun nest, the support weapon. That's another one of those points that people tend to forget, that you can actually put heroes with the support weapons.
Yeah. And then they can get really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
That's also when we talk about Lara. Why not put Lara with the laser platform for the Blotkreuz? Because then they start to move around and they sustain fire with her fire and move, and they have another totally different dimension when they're paired with Lara. You don't see that much anymore, but before, when they had not that much units for the Germans, you could see that now and again that some Wehrmacht players were placing Lara with the laser support weapon, and that, I'm not saying it's good, but it's an interesting, different kind of.
It's worth experimenting with.
Definitely, that's. So I guess we didn't do anything to answer the question. We made it even harder for him but that's why we're here, isn't it?
Yeah, all right. Next question comes from Adam Shagan, and Adam asked, what would be your dream addition to the Mercs that wouldn't break the game? At PAX Unplugged, we discussed a Merc Flyer. Yeah, I would really enjoy that. I'm kind of imagining those mercenary girls taking an old propeller plane and strapping some recoilless guns to the wings or something like that. Mm-hmm. It could be really cool.
Yeah, and when you're on the flyer thing, why shouldn't they have a Zeppelin? Something like a weather balloon or something? No, but
one hit point.
Yeah, but since they get one railgun, when the
if there's passengers on it, no,
yeah, well, that's another thing. But
no, you can't shoot support weapons out of an
I was
aircraft.
thinking when the Vril come, we want one saucer mercenaries, one mercenary saucer, because of course they will hijack one.
Right.
But I don't know. It is very, very good.
I can't really say that I have some kind of favorite thing that I would like to see. I would like to see them branch out a bit more, I would say. A couple of more infantry units.
I would like to see at least one little bit heavier vehicle, because everything they have now is at the lighter scale of things. So that's something I would really enjoy. Some sort of tank that they could use. I don't think it should be that points efficient, just because it has to have that mercenary tax, basically. So that's another point, actually, that should be considered, because there was kind of a discussion that I saw that if you do an all-mercenary army, should you get a points boost? Because all the mercenaries have that kind of built-in mercenary tax, or most of them do.
Yeah, they are a little bit more pricey because you can use them in every. That you could actually argue that. I definitely also think that a Merc army should be able to take one kidnapped and one salvaged vehicle from every other army. Block, because they have been around probably, so they will have some of this and some of that. So just that could be a specialty for the Mercs to have.
Or maybe have them take the captured units, but not get the extra 2 points penalty for it, because they are mercenaries. That's also a possibility. There's some interesting things you can experiment with there if you want to.
Yeah, I also like the idea if they could have more than one captured vehicle. Like put the cap at 2 or 3 or whatever. That's nice, but I don't know. I feel that it's kind of thematic that they don't have some really heavy stuff, because they are moving around, they are switching sides to whoever pays the best. So I don't know. I understand that people that are playing 100% mercenary armies, they want to have everything to choose from, but to me it's kind of thematic that they don't have the really heavy stuff, or that they don't have a lot of aircraft. I mean, one could be fine with like a special piloting this thing, to make some kind of theme or some story behind it. That would be cool, awesome.
We do actually know of one heavier thing that is actually coming for the Mercs, but it's unfortunately, as far as we've heard, at least, it's not a playable unit. It's just a scenario piece, basically. And I'm talking about the excavator on the Walker excavator. So it's basically the heavy axis Walker, but with an excavator chassis. That just looks so brutally cool. I don't care if they don't add an official stat card. I'm going to make one. Just going and hitting someone in the face with a big bucket, and
I'm getting two ideas now, and please, you guys I could have just Wikipedia'd it, but it is much more fun to bring it to you, and you can show off your expertise. Correct me when I'm wrong, but when did Amelia Earhart disappear? When did she make that historical flight? Because I'm thinking, she could be a merc, she could be a flyer, and why did she disappear? You know, you have a very good Star Trek episode when she goes into Star Trek, so perhaps she has been with the Vril for some reason, or something.
She did disappear in 1937, so she's been gone for 10 years.
Yeah.
But she could
re-emerge now, 20 years, she's been in another dimension. It was like a Vril fluke, something. So I would love to have, and she's a strong woman, she's a very good
mercenary pilot there. Yeah, that would be really cool.
I really like to see her, and she shouldn't be trademarked. I don't think so. So I think it would be a good thing. The other one I would love to see for the mercs, because I understand, since it's a little bit older shit, I think if it were ever to appear, it would be the Cthulhu boys who gets it, but it would break my heart. So, you know, that big Russian battleship that they had on land, it was like they built one or two between the first, I think, and the Second World War. It was shit, but it had a lot of turrets, and I have it as a model in the Axis and Allies miniature games. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. It is hysterical. It will probably be the shittiest thing on earth, but perhaps it could be like a 4 or 5.
You're thinking of the one where they had like 7 turrets or something like that?
It's just bonkers, but it's not powerful, and I think it was its own weight were killing the suspenders, or what they call, like the one. So I think, but that's one. If we could get that one, it would be just seeing that on 3 or 4 squares.
Not to break your heart, Ludwig, but just found on tanksencyclopedia.com. I can't vouch for the validity of this site, but they claim that it's a fake.
Yeah, I know, but it's no.
But that doesn't mean it can be used in Dust.
That is propaganda, Western propaganda. Sorry.
It's called the KV6.
What are you saying, Johannes?
Yes.
It can't be used in Dust. Everything in Dust is for real.
Yes.
Of course.
Don't you know that?
Yeah.
This is no fake stuff here.
Yeah.
No, of course, if it was fake, I wouldn't even be able to touch it or lift it.
Exactly.
No, of course. All right, next question comes from our dear podcasting friends over at Radio Free Sverograd.
Yes.
And the question is, with the release of the Avatar of Cthulhu and the possibility of 3 working their way into a 100-point list, they're only 29 points each, you could fit 3 of them into a list, is your all-comers list shifting to include more anti-tank?
Well, mine is because I have had some experience lately.
But that's probably you. I think when you're thinking about an all-comers list, that basically the kind of standard that we do, because usually we don't know what kind of scenario we are going on, with what table and what we are going for. So you almost have to do that. And I would say, for me personally, I would say no. I probably would not, and for 2 reasons. Basically, if someone actually brings that army, then, how are they going to capture objectives, first off? Because the mythos creatures can't do that. So that's a lot of stuff that just falls off. They have to kill my entire army. And sure, these guys are really tough, but even with that, I don't think it's too broken or overpowered.
No, I don't see this broken or overpowered, but I ran into Jonathan, and he's a skilled player, so and he was playing the Cthulhu guys last time around, and I thought I had a quite decent kind of army composition-wise, but I realized very quickly that it would not work, even though I killed all these little ones, but his 3 big guys were just running around. It ended up with my lonesome Chinese guys fighting them in close combat, because I just want to it'd go out with a blaze of glory or something like that. But he chewed up my few tanks and walkers and stuff. So at least my army that day needs to get more anti-tank no shit, because if I run up to one of those, and if they were to face, that was just the standard ones, you know, with the
spawns.
Yeah, the spawns, and one of the
the saving grace, I would say, for the Avatar is the fact that it doesn't have first strike. So if you manage to get it down a bit, it is possible to take it down in close combat. But it's still it's tough, definitely.
Oh yeah. On 2 mats, the other 2 can flank it, so you don't really get the opportunity, because I just on that game on Jonathan, I gave him a bait. He could have easily scored perhaps my grandma but he understood that if he did, I would probably lose him one of his, and so he didn't take the bait, and I lost. There was nothing more to say about that. So I think because I think still that army I played would go quite good against most other armies. So I don't see it as underpowered unless against. Oh, sorry.
For me, I will probably not change too much in that department of anti-tank stuff. I usually bring some anti-tank stuff anyways, so I won't really be impacted by that, I think. And as you said before, Johannes, you can fit 3 of these guys in a 100-point army, but I mean they will be heavily outnumbered against almost everything else, meaning it will be very difficult to really drive the game, since you will have so few activations and so few units to be able to capture objectives. And that's also a very important part. I think this game, it needs to be played with objectives.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes I see players, they are discussing a game, and a little bit further down, they tell that they were playing kill 'em all. They were playing with no special objectives. They were just playing to last man standing, which is to me kind of boring anyway, and it makes, I don't know, some kind of skews really good. It changes the game somehow. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. It's you need to play with at least, you know, some kind of objective. And with the mythos creatures, obviously it's important. That's how the game is designed to be played, because they have a special rule saying they can't capture objectives. So
so they, in that case, they really need their support.
Yeah. So if, of course, facing 3 avatars of Cthulhu should be kind of daunting. You should be a bit scared, but in the long run, I don't really see that army as a big problem. I can't really see that army winning any tournaments or stuff. Yeah, I think it's too hard to play it, and you have to be super lucky to win a lot of games with it.
No, I agree. It's not. It has its limitations, but for me at least, my aim wasn't true in my building of my army. I was not composed in the right way. So yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Mike Pierce. Mike asks, my question pertains to the Luftwaffe. Do you think we will ever see a flying observer unit, flying laser pistols unit, and or in airstrike / bombardment action or character? Or perhaps some light strike plane like those early German prototypes? Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, the thing I think at the moment with Luftwaffe, I think we've heard from the studio side that at the moment at least, Luftwaffe is basically done. They are not getting any major reinforcements for the foreseeable future, which I could understand, but because the release schedule for the Axis has been very heavy Luftwaffe for a while.
Yeah.
A flying Raketentrupp observer squad, that's an interesting idea.
It's an interesting idea, but I think it's very unlikely, because the Luftwaffe already have an observer team. That's the Fallschirmjäger, but still they are part of the Luftwaffe, so I don't know. And I also kind of think that I think the idea with the observers is that you need to place them in a good place to use them. So one of the difficult parts to play with the observers is to know where to deploy them, when to use them, when to advance, and if you put rockets on their backs, it kind of takes away a little bit. They become a bit too easy almost to play, if you know what I mean, because they are so fast. So I don't know. I think it's very unlikely.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. But we got the BAs also. They are almost like flyers because they go 3.7 for the Russians, the small cars there. And okay, they can't climb buildings though, so you can't get that super thing. But at least the few times I have let myself play with the BA cars, I've had a good success with them. So I get it feels very much more easier to play BAs than regular observers. So I totally get what you're saying, that these, if they could zoom around and observe, they would be even more. And we have some people who have put observers in choppers, so and that's also a nice thing because then you see all the battlefield at once. So
yeah, but then they also cost a lot of more points.
Yeah,
so it's I don't know. I think it's very unlikely. Yeah. However, the flying laser pistols unit idea here seems kind of interesting, and I'm immediately thinking back to Florentine.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool to theme her. Pair her together with such a unit and fly around with laser pistols. I'm not sure exactly what the role, what the purpose that unit would have, but yeah, it's a cool idea.
Well, yeah, since we already talked about it, that just to name it again, that I'm in Midnight Clad, that other game there, I love quick, fast units with a lot of shootouts and going up close. So I would have loved to see that would perhaps make me want to do some spin on the Raketentruppen. If I could have like double shooters, I have two pistols in each hand. They have some interesting poses, and I go straight up to them and I execute them. And if I don't execute them, I charge them in and I chop them up with my closed fists.
Yeah, I kind of see two possibilities here. That you have a short-ranged pistol-armed unit, and either they are doing quite a lot of damage, so they're basically a glass cannon squad. The other opportunity would be to pull down the damage a bit and have them be a harassment squad, and maybe give them perhaps something like the raid rule.
Yeah, they can jump in, shoot, jump back.
Yeah.
That would be nice. And also I would love to, if they have like two laser pistols in their hands, they will of course have, to me, one laser knife as well. Perhaps ignoring damage.
Lightsaber.
No, not lightsaber, but laser knife. That's just like or something like a burner or something like they go through the...
Cut and cauterize.
Yes. So...
these are all cool ideas, but for the question is, do you think we ever will see? My answer to that unit is also no.
No.
I don't think so. Why? Because in Dust, so far at least, we have some heroes with laser weapons, and we have Blutkreuz units with laser weapons.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You have no ordinary guys carrying any laser weapons that are not Blutkreuz.
But you could also, perhaps even, that would be even so much sweeter. Why shouldn't the Blutkreuz have some Raketentruppen? They could have their own versions of it, and being...
could be, maybe.
You could see, okay, then perhaps they won't be lasers, but they would probably just repel zombies like...
Yeah, I was just thinking, zombified Raketentruppen. Yeah. That's a very interesting idea. So that's really a kamikaze squad.
Yeah,
then.
They could have big claws or something like that. I mean, think like a new version of Frank von Stein. He and some boys with big claws and coming with you with Raketentruppen. Yeah, you take that. You don't want to stay in that way. Oh, just that feeling, 5 zombies, Frankenstein, Raketentruppen on the back sides, burning into...
Rocket zombies.
Yeah. It's so wonderful. Yeah, and it's thematic.
Yeah, definitely thematic.
We're not going to spoil too much, but you read the books. They try to send them into space until they realize it's not so good, so they send the monkeys instead. It's like... it's totally doable. But okay, well...
You heard it here first, guys. Yeah. Zombies with rockets on their backs.
Yeah!
Make it happen! All right. And finally, the final question comes from another great podcasting team, Forged the Narrative. This is primarily a 40K podcast, so if you play 40K and is a podcast fan, you might have heard of them before. And they're asking, with all the changes to the game and management, do you feel the game will last long term, aka longer than the Age? And with Age here, I'm figuring they mean the Horus Heresy. I don't really know if they mean Horus Heresy the game or Horus Heresy the actual war in the lore.
Yeah, because that's like 10,000 years.
No. It's just the actual kind of short term. That was just, I think I checked that up before. It's like 9 years or something like that.
I mean, just the Salt on Terror, you're thinking that. Sorry.
Yeah, basically the whole Civil War thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I think if I recall correctly, the game 30K, as people sometimes call it, that kind of started in early 2010s, something like that. And if that's the case, if that's what they're asking, then of course Dust is already older than that. Dust turned 10 this year.
Yeah.
But the big question is probably going to be pertaining to the changeover to now the game is self-published, and it changed the name and it changed some of the kind of rules into the new Dust 1947 version. And do we feel like this current version of the game is here to stay, basically, if it has the long legs?
We know that it will change every time. When the rail comes, it will change. It will definitely change in 68, because they printed the T-shirts and stuff like that long ago. So we know it will morph. And you talked about it many times, Paolo, and Olivier, at least from my knowledge, that it will always be evolving, so to speak.
I think I understand what you mean there, but I think the question kind of pertains to, will the players stay with the game? Is this a game that will keep an active community? So is it worth for a new player to get into the game if you're interested in it?
No, this is a shit game. Don't invest in this. We're just doing this for fun. It's a mad Italian and a French dude. You know, how long can it last? No, but seriously,
yeah, like you said, I mean, the game is already 10 years old, and as far as I know, it's in a better place than it's been for a very long time, and more new stuff is coming out than has been like since forever, more or less. And we are just now seeing the next big block coming out, and
I think the place that this question is coming from is kind of an outside perspective. We've been with the game for quite a lot of years now at this point. And I think the last time, now the game is starting to show up and become more visible at major conventions, and people are still getting into it. It's starting to appear in people's consciousness again. The last time that happens was with the big Kickstarter fiasco. And I think that's what this question has its roots in, because some people at least, I think, that didn't stay with the game or didn't get into the game back then, they kind of associate the game with that. And I think the way that I see it is that, yes, that was a big setback for the game. The player count went way down for quite a while, but the game still held on. The players still kept going strong. They still loved the game. They still managed to spread the game to new players, and now it's growing faster than it's ever been. And I think that's a very good indication that, yes, this game is going to have the long legs, and it will be here in quite a few years' time.
Yeah, and especially since the studio now have full control, they don't have to go through some kind of publisher or distribution channels that they don't know. I mean, it's in a better place basically. They can do what they want when they want with their game.
Yeah, and like I've talked about it actually because I have had some genuine fears because there are some in our community that I feel at least are more prone to the old classical World War II and like some small twists of it. So I could have envisioned a way when we in 10-15 years perhaps play. There are two different strands of Dust. Some play it more hardcore, more World War II, and some play the new stuff, which is perhaps even in the 60s then, and with the rockets and or perhaps on move, fighting on Luna or something like that. Like it's like.
I'm not sure. Are you saying the possibility that some people will not like the high-tech Vril or whatever?
Yeah,
I think it goes too far from World War II or something.
Yeah. I could see that because like if that's why also I don't really understand the question. To me, 30K will never die. The excitement of the Civil War, for some of us at least, if I had to choose, I would only play 30K instead of 40K. Because 30K is so much more interesting to me. Also, perhaps that's because the armies I play. But still, I think that the theme of it, the history of it, the setting of it, it's much more interesting. And I can see people feeling that they really love the World War II. Perhaps it's stupid to say you love a World War, but it's like the World War II thing that pulls them into the game or pulls them back into the game.
Say whatever you want about the war itself, but it does make an emotional connection to people.
Yeah, we have a lot of gamers that only go for the World War II games and they play variants of it because they are experimenting, but I mean they stick in that genre. So I can see that Dust has its own 30K players in the future. And I don't. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a bad thing or a good thing or something. I can see that happening.
Yeah, but that's again, that's very common when a game is successful and over time as well.
Yeah,
that players kind of spread out because they like a specific part better or they like, So it's, I mean, a lot of games. In a lot of games you can see that phenomena. It's, I don't know, I guess it's a natural process basically. It happens, but I think Dust will have some staying time, definitely. It's already shown that it has. It's 10 years old now, so, and we've already seen some plans like you mentioned for the future, both for this setting and possibly for a slightly different Dust setting. So and then you have the ones that claim that wargaming like this will die out because we don't recruit new. But I still think that you see new recruits both in Sweden and in other places. Even though I see a shift, more computer gaming, and it's not, and people are more into the cooperative games nowadays.
I think. That's a generational issue because it seems like us we have to say we're older gamers. That's just no getting around it. But we see that when going around to gaming conventions, you do see a lot of families.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe we're not getting that many people into the game that are in like the years around like 12 to 14 at the moment, but wait 5 years.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be an explosion of people, I think.
Yeah, because even when we were in Poland last year, there were a lot of kids either just sitting beside or playing actually also. And I mean, I don't want to, I'm not trying to force my daughter to play, but she actually comes to me also sometimes and says, "Dad, why don't we play a game of Dust? It actually happened a few times the last half year. So it's
and she is how old?
7.
Yeah.
So going towards 8 now. But yeah, so I still can see it happen. That could be also, of course, just a daddy thing. You want to spend time with daddy. But she only plays the mercs, but that also makes me feel like she connects to them.
Yeah.
For some reason, and well, yeah.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, it's not. That's it. We have a few pointers.
Yeah, that's it for the mail call section.
Yeah.
That was what I meant. I wasn't really completely clear there.
Because we haven't had any last minutes mail calls. Have you checked them online?
We could actually do that if you want to. If there's been any more kind of submissions.
Well, no, I don't see it on my heading actually. So perhaps it's. But you are the master, man. So
there's been some discussions about Mats's question there about the Florentine group, but that's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah, Roger, the laser Roger from here from Sweden, who's the local guru on the Luftwaffe, is getting into it. So I guess Mats is going to get all the coaching he needs there.
Definitely. Yeah. Just listen what Roger says. It's the truth. We should actually have him question the experts sometimes. That perhaps would be a segment. Find someone who's very good at playing something or played it a lot, and one can have like the 5 top questions. Perhaps I shouldn't say this on air. We could have just talked about it. But that's how this pod works.
Yeah,
interesting idea.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get over to tournament talk.
Please.
There's been some interesting things going on. There's some interesting things coming up. Like you mentioned before, the German Masters happened recently in Berlin. And I was there. I was taking part of it with my Mythos all premium army. Not all my models, I have to unfortunately say, because one, I don't own any premium Spawn of Cthulhu's. And I didn't want to pack it as well, because it's a bastard to get into like the packing, and I didn't want to bring any check-in baggage. I only wanted to just do the easy thing. Travel lightly, exactly. So but I actually managed to borrow one. So the army was actually entirely premium, and it's it turned some heads because it looks gorgeous.
And it was still Johannes' model, wasn't it? So
Johannes Behling, that was the tournament organizer.
So it was an old Johannes army.
Yes, exactly. It was an old Johannes army. That's completely true. I have to admit I didn't do that well. Games-wise, I had some very, very fun games, but I only managed to win 1 out of 5. But there were some that was really close, and I'm starting to get a feel for how to use the different units and such. And that wasn't really the point. The point wasn't for me to go there and beat competitive. The point was for me to try out these new units and just meet people and socialize. And from that perspective, it was just a fantastic success. It was some amazing players and some amazing games. The tournament was won by Sasha, which people who know Sasha could probably they're probably not that surprised by that.
There's no high odds on that one. It's even money. But it was actually just he was playing Germans again.
Yes,
because he was going very heavy into the Russian section there a while. And,
he did, but this time he brought a more classic kind of army there.
Oh, nice, good one.
So that was really fun, and I had some. There was quite a lot of people. There were me and Kalle from Sweden. There was also a contingent of players from Poland. So it was really great. I actually got to play against Pavel, which I hadn't had the opportunity to before. We've met Pavel several times now.
It's had an impact on all our lives.
Yes, of course. But this time he definitely had an impact on my army, because that was the game that went absolutely worst for me. He played a Blutkreuz army with a lot of apes, with all the heroes, and they just made mincemeat out of my cultists. I don't think I managed to kill a single unit in that game.
Ooh, nice one, Pavel. Actually, brings a warm feeling to my heart.
I think the one of the most interesting games I played, which was kind of a little bit outside of the competition, was actually against Marek. Because he played stand-in for one of the other guys who who didn't manage to be there on day one for the tournament. He only came for the Sunday. So Marek stepped in and played in his stead, but he didn't have his models. So instead, he played with the premium Japanese models that he's been using for demo games. So it was an all-premium Japanese army versus an all-premium cultists army. And it was glorious.
Yeah, everyone was standing around.
And I actually got to swap out my close combat Migos for the ray gun Migos for that game. And that just made me want them more. They are amazing.
Yeah. Well.
And that also kind of softened the impact a bit about the big railgun walker for the Japanese, because it did manage to get some shots off. It survived for quite a few turns. It never hit anything once. So I think Mark was a bit miffed by that. So it was a really great tournament. It was a really great venue. I should say that to any wargamer or gamer in general who's in Berlin, go visit Battlefield Berlin. That was the store that the tournament was held in, and it's without a doubt the greatest wargaming store I've ever been in. Wizard Games comes close, but this tops it. Just buttering up to Magnus here a bit.
Yeah, his old store there. Yeah, well.
It's fantastic. Those stores, support them if you can. If you live nearby, go and visit them. If you go as a tourist somewhere, make sure you visit them, because they are awesome and they are needed.
Yeah, definitely.
As we talked before, like bringing in new people. Yeah.
And it's just such a lovely feeling to go there and browse, find new stuff, new lines. I bought quite a lot of terrain stuff, like little trees and leaves and just stuff I want to do a lot of interesting things with. So it was just lovely. And I also had the opportunity to talk quite a bit with the organizer, Johannes Behling, the day after the tournament. And we're actually going to put that interview in at the end of the episode so you can listen to that. And we talked a bit about the tournament and the scenarios, and we also managed to talk a bit about the Dust Commandos, the demo group team that Johannes is one of the organizers for here in Europe, and also about the upcoming German translation of the Dust 1947 rulebook, which should be out very soon.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I hope they have a good impact on the German players, because that could mean I guess a lot of new players, hopefully at least. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a small local tournament coming up here in Sweden soon. The LDD7, Linköping Days of Dust, is going to be arranged the 5th and 6th of January. Yeah. So if you're in the vicinity of Linköping, Sweden, then come and join us.
And if I remember correctly, it was a narrative thing a little bit, or that the narrative.
It's going to be something similar to that. So they are asking what faction you are going to bring, so they can kind of forge the narrative around that. So you can name drop there for the other podcast again. You're welcome, guys. So I think that's going to be a really cool tournament, and I don't know for my part if I'm going to be able to make it. I hope so. I haven't checked yet. There's a lot of stuff going on for work early January, so I hope I can make it at least.
Yeah, I'm hoping as well. I have to double check a little bit if I can go or not, but I hope so.
And I'm pretty sure I won't. It's a super weekend for playing for every reason, except that I haven't had my daughter for the new year, so I'm getting her back to the days before, and so 99% chance I will be, it's daddy time that weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah. But there's going to be more. I think we're going to have a GDD, a Gothenburg Days of Dust coming up
I hope
pretty
so
soon as well.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, there's some plans going on around there. Then we actually have a submission. We are talking a lot about the European kind of scene here, and that's, well, we are European, so that's kind of expected, I guess. But that doesn't mean that we can't talk about other tournaments in other parts of the world. So if you have a tournament that you want to plug or an event or something, get in touch with us. We would love to do that. And we have done about Captain Con in Warwick, Rhode Island. This is going to be February 8th through 10th. And the Dust 1947 tournament is on the Saturday and the Sunday. And that's also going to be a sort of narrative tournament. It's I was looking at the registration page. It's 16 places, and at the moment it's only 4 that's locked in. So there's still time and there's still room to get in on this. And it looks really cool. It's going to be kind of an escalation tournament. So day 1 will be a narrative on 2 mats, escalating 50, 75, and then 100 points. And day 2 will be a 100-point multi-round event with 3 mats. So it's just grow larger and larger and being more and more epic. This sounds like a really cool event.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're in the vicinity of Warwick, Rhode Island in early February, get going and check this out. Captain Con is the convention that this event is going to be held at.
Yeah, sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And it's I'm actually talking about tournaments or some strange things. I'm actually, our old friend, I was saying, Ben, is starting to put some seeds in my head now about 2020 and perhaps the US.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
He's working that angle at least, and I'm falling for it. Unfortunately, this is the money issue. How do you do it? And this Captain Con seemed to be something one should. That'd been nice, but we will see what happens.
We will see. It would be absolutely fantastic if we could bring a big group from Sweden and go over to play in the US. Not just to play, just maybe do some sightseeing as well if we have time. I hope so, at least. So, but
like some kind of road trip, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would definitely. If one would have a go to the US, and I say whatever, because I have so hard seeing it getting finalized for me economy-wise, but then you have to do 2 month stay because there's so much thing you have to, or at least I would have to do. Since I'm built like I am.
Everything.
Yeah, I have to go to like Pittsburgh, for instance, in a certain time of the year because I have to experience a lot of things in Pittsburgh for some reason. But then it's all the classical things, of course, you want to do as well, and all the conventions. Yeah. So it's a puzzle. That is,
Yeah, you just have to face the fact that you can't do everything, unfortunately.
That's true.
But hopefully we can at some point do something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that is actually it for this episode.
Oh no! Say it ain't so!
But like we said before, we are probably going to do our big end of the year episode next time.
Yeah.
So we are going to list our most exciting releases of the year. And if you listeners out there have some specific release, some new unit or something in the game that you want to bring out that this was, or some event that really pushed your buttons and was something really cool this year, then get in touch with us and we can get it on the show.
Your highlights for 2018.
Absolutely. So you can send us an email, record a voice message and send it. We would accept most stuff, most of those, but not everything. So keep it in your pants. So until we hear from you next time, this has been Johannes.
And Magnus.
And Ludda.
And we will see you on the battlefield. This is Johannes, just back from the German Masters in Berlin, and it's the day after the dust has settled, so to speak. And I'm here today with the organizer of this magnificent event, with also a magnificent first name.
Hi, I'm also Johannes, but the one from Germany.
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome to the show. It's not the first time you've been on the show.
No, I think we did some interviews back then after other tournaments, maybe last year or I think also this year there was supposed to be one after the Warsaw tournament, which is one of the Dust 100 apocryphs. The Lost Interview.
Yes. Technical difficulties.
Absolutely. And maybe when you're always asking people to send in some audio snippets, I think 1 or 2 times I also did it.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, for old friend of the show, so to speak. Yeah.
Absolutely. A fan from hour zero.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been quite active here in the German kind of scene for a while, it seems.
So last year I was asked by Marek and Olivier to join them in Essen, so the game fair. And demoing there led to demo gaming, difficult words, all the way to other shows and the second show at Essen this year. And also I was involved with the German starter rules when they were looking for someone to help translating them and some finding mistakes, some defining them. I think 1 or 2 pages might have been missing. And the same thing happened again, but in a bigger version. So Dust has settled maybe, but today I got some new. I went to the post office to see the preview copy of the German rulebook.
Ooh, that's really cool.
So it is going to come out. It is there. It is in existence. I think it looks like printing is over now. It's done. And it should be soon in Europe.
Very, very nice. So that will probably be available through War Factory, also through some local game shops, I would suspect.
I think so too. So the obvious ways where to get Dust stuff, they should stock it also at some point.
Really great. So that's something for the German players to look forward to. Definitely.
And maybe the Austrians or some part of Switzerland.
Of course. And that will be a way to get more people into the game.
I hope so.
Yeah. So do you know if there's more coming up, like translating the operation books maybe, or the cards, stuff like that, or is it just a rule book at this point?
At this point, it's just a rule book, and it's designed. I can show it to you. We can show it to the listeners, but we'll maybe can take some pictures. If you have a look at especially at the special abilities, you'll see that it's always the English name and the German explanation, so that the English cards are the easiest to use. And you just look up, okay, what's the skill? What does the book say? How to use it.
That's really good, and that helps when we meet for tournaments now, like we did now.
Absolutely.
People from very different countries, and you maybe use special translations of the rule book, and things are not always the same. That I know that can cause problems. So it's good that that's been thought of.
And also imagine you're going to this tournament, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, I think. But we had people playing for the German Masters from Germany, from Sweden, and from Poland. So everyone would have to bring 2 sets of cards at least.
Yeah.
And imagine you would have more guests, or the Warsaw big tournament every year. So we also have some French people, maybe some Italian people. Everyone goes there, and where should that lead? Everyone brings the English cards, or do we bring, in case you meet a Swedish guy, you bring your Swedish cards too, and your Italian cards, and your Polish cards.
And that's a big thing if you don't know what skill is which, because that can be a problem if you face something that you normally don't. I know other games have that issue, like for Magic the Gathering, for instance, but then you usually, if you're playing that competitively, you usually know the card just by looking at the art. That's normally not always the case with Dust. You still have to cross-reference because you don't quite remember, is that the exact one? Do they have the heavy machine gun, or is it the RPG? I don't remember, do they have a grenade or not? So I can see why that can be an issue.
And also, if you have a collectible card, they stay the same all the time. They just rotate out of the system. You may use them. But with Dust, everything's still valid, and some units have changed all the time. Maybe at some point your missile launcher, whatever, had a grenade skill, now it has not anymore, or the other way around. So at this point, the cards change too many times to just say, oh, the cards are all the time all the same. Imagine you have the card of something, but there is the block version, there is 1 or sometimes 2 faction versions. This is, in this case, too complicated, so I think like this, it's better now.
Yeah, and it's a good way to bridge the gap between different languages, just to make us all play good together.
That's it.
And that's the point. So how did you get started in Dust?
So I was going from time to time to my friendly local gaming store in my hometown back then. I've seen something, I think that was the 1.5 Fantasy Flight revised core set. They had it there, it was on the shelf too, and there was lots of other games, and some weird was some Accent Allies classical stuff. But this never really caught me until I've seen the very first previews in news blogs for the MDAC.
Okay.
This must have been 2013, I'd say. Something maybe not Adapticon, but could it be Gen Con?
Maybe.
So I really like that idea of having a female officer with a hyena, which turns out to be still one of my favorite miniatures ever. And I think always desert warfare looks cool, so it had sand filters and lightweight infantry, some weapons, some water bosses and all that stuff that belongs to desert warfare. So this was cool. And like this, I was browsing the range and buying some boxes. Then I backed the Kickstarter. And when I finally received my stuff I really needed to play, I had collected an army, only an Axis army so far at this point. This must have been 2015, I think. And by that time I was living for a job after the school in France. And there I met with the French guys and had a great tournament in Paris. I think it was in 2016 in spring, and then met them at some other occasions too. And like this, I got started, and at some point the collection grew and grew, and an Axis army was followed by some Marines, and as you could get in some stores sometimes the clearance sales, the collection grew and something new looked cool, and this is how the whole thing really started.
Yeah, I kind of recognize that story from a few other people. But it's almost always the same. It's something to do with the visuals. You just noticed something, it catches your eye. Yeah, so that's something that I think a lot of people agree that they love about the game. It's just how it looks.
There's something that looks different, that's cool with a twist. So in my case, it wasn't in first place the Walkers, but I think I was playing Warlord games, Bolt Action back then. And I had started an Africa Corps army, so I thought this could be a nice addition at some point. And that led in the end to playing the actual game that was meant to be.
Yeah, very nice. So let's talk a bit about the tournaments. So
yes,
this was
surely.
Was this your first large tournament that you've organized yourself? So
I had organized or helped people organize some tournaments in the past too. It wasn't Dust so far. I was involved for the very first Dust tournament, I think, where I could really help out people last year for the German Masters. We split work there a bit. The guys from Aschaffenburg, where it took place last year, organized, of course, the main part. But someone helped them out with the scenarios. And I think I translated them and also all the information for the tournament page. So since we had guests announced from Poland again, Sweden and France that time, we just shared that work and it was easier. This year we did like this too, that I did not have to come up with 5 scenarios just out of the blue. And since in the group of people who are really involved in Germany, the question came up, maybe someone else wants to do it somewhere else this year. I thought of some places and clubs here in Berlin that might be interested in just hosting it. And yeah, one thing came to another. we talk to each other, and in the end, the guys at the gaming store, or the battlefield, were very keen on just hosting it.
Yeah. And it was a great venue to play, definitely. And
Thank you.
dangerous for the wallet, with all those great miniatures all over the place.
Going to a hobby store and having a tournament there and having some time off, or even conventions, it's tough and dangerous.
Yes,
I know that.
Yeah. So are you personally happy with how the tournament turned out? Like, did it flow well? Do you think, are people happy generally?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I was worried just before it started that it could be a bit messy, since it's always the case you organize something and then people drop out last minute for various reasons. Sometimes you can understand, sometimes it feels a bit cruel. You do all the work and they just say, okay, yeah, nice that you do it, I don't care, I won't come. But this time, since everyone arrived on time, setup worked, we had enough terrain, and everything worked out fine. People were really comprehensive, so someone came up with an idea. We just asked, are you okay? Yes, I am. Let's do it like this. Cool. And everyone had more fun in the end.
Yeah.
So I think everyone was really relaxed and thankful, and I'm grateful for the people that have come. That was so easy to host. It was not stressed out all the time. It was easy games, no complications.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I got as a player in the tournament as well. That it was a very relaxed situation, and most people were there just to play and have fun.
Absolutely,
that's a good atmosphere to have, definitely.
And always, it's interesting how is the reception. So we had some guests, some of the people I know from local gaming clubs, also YouTube channels. Some were coming to do some little coverage. There is also some already out.
Yeah, I saw a bit of it.
Very cool. And also people were really interested in it. It all went well. And in the end, what was the most surprising thing, that the store owners came to me saying, it was amazing. If we didn't know you were there, we didn't think so. It was that calm. It wasn't loud at all. It was very civilized. They said they experienced the worst often enough. So I think they were happy too.
Great. And it just speaks volumes about how the Dust community really seems to respect each other. That's kind of a red thread again. When you talk about people all over the world, it seems like Dust people are just nicer.
So I think you have lots of grown-up people.
That's true.
Who are just, they know how to behave at some point, or they know, okay, also the community is not that big. If I'm just doing some stuff that people don't like all the time, if I'm mean, I won't have anyone to play with really quickly.
Yeah, that could definitely be a factor. I agree. So about the scenarios, you did a few of them, and
yes,
some of the other guys of your German friends helped with some of the others.
That's it. So we had 5 scenarios in total. 3 of them were written by Sasha, who people might know as the constant European and German champion, the guy you cannot beat.
And needless to say, he did win this year as well.
Oh yes,
but it was close.
It was really, really close. So I think in our German tournaments we have the system that we sum up kill points, and you get bonus points for winning or losing, or having a draw in the scenario. And usually you get a boost of 100 points, so as it were 100 kill points for winning the scenario. So blank wins or losses don't count that much. But he was winning by 4 points difference.
Yeah, in the end. So it's really, really tense.
Absolutely. And I think the last game between him and his runner-up, Daniel, I think we can say that much, it was also intense. And they were really thinking all the time, what is the next move? It looked like a chess game. I
can imagine that, because if people haven't checked out those scenarios, they're still available on the site.
Yes, they are.
You should check them out. The final scenario is the breakthrough one.
That's it.
Yeah.
This one's from me, and also the one with the waves you move on the table. if you find any mistakes in them due to layout, as it was sent here and there all the time, we might do a very nicer version of them at some point.
Yeah, and something that I think people should try out because they were varied and they were fun. And I think especially, then I have to thank you for it because the final breakthrough scenario was really, really fun.
Thank you.
And I can imagine why that could be a brain burner when you really try to play it, because you really have to think about, am I going to move this guy so I can get close to the other edge and then move it off, or do I keep it here so I can defend against the other? There's so many possibilities going through your head.
Maybe we should just explain what this scenario is all about. So it was all the time 2 mats, 100 points, so much safe at the beginning. In this scenario, we didn't have that much terrain. I think about 12 trees in 4 lines and some blocking elements, about 2 of them.
Yeah.
And the idea is you move on as usual, and every unit that escapes the battlefield on the opponent's deployment area gives you 1 victory point. As soon as the last unit would have left the battlefield, it immediately ended. We had a maximum of 8 rounds, or 2 hours. And there's also one thing that I came up with playtesting it. I received some critics about it, so this could be maybe something we should change at some point. That if at least 1 unit escaped the battlefield, and you manage as the opponent of that escaping unit's army to wipe out the entire army, at this point you are awarded 5 victory points. So victory points will not be counted for the tournament standings, but only to determine who is the winner, who wins, who loses.
Yeah.
And at this point, this idea came up to give not an advantage as huge as it could be to a mass army. Maybe some infantry 1 spam list with, sometimes they get up to 16, 17 activations. Some more, some less. And if you have some heavy grenadier list against that kind of marine list, you're just outnumbered.
Yeah, that could potentially be a problem. I can see that.
So this is why you could get 5 victory points. And it was interesting to see how people played. So some really tried to break through, sometimes both players. Sometimes one just, he dug in to kill off the enemy. That I've also seen. And I think all in all, we had 1 draw on this, but it was tough and also lots of kill points. So people tried really hard.
Definitely. And in the game that I played, we both ended up playing very defensively in the start. So there was, I think it was only 1 attack in the first turn.
That's rare.
Yeah. And then we just moved very, very slowly towards each other, trying to outmaneuver. And then I think it was by turn 3 when the actual action really started to happen. And I do come back to that thing, though. I like when other scenarios or platoons or units force you to think differently than you usually do. And this scenario really did that for me.
I think in this case, what could have been an advantage is a Luftwaffe airdrop army or the airdrop KV platoon, which I think we should add this, as people might think, oh, I'm just dropping to the last line, then move out. This is super easy. We limited it as we split the map that you move on the short edge. So on your mat, basically the end. So the first, it's 6 squares, is the last or the farthest square where you may drop.
Yeah.
So otherwise, it's too easy for you.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good point. Absolutely.
So it's not that easy. Don't think so.
No. It could be worth trying. Yes. Luftwaffe versus the Spetsnaz or the SSU. So
then the big fight is in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Without any cover.
Immediately.
Yeah. That's just the meat grinder scenario then.
Yeah. So it might not be very interesting. Might be worth trying sometime. Oh well. So overall, are you happy with the tournament, how everything worked out?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think you should be. I think everyone that went away from it was very happy. It was a good thing.
I got some messages in the evening or even this morning where people were thanking me and saying, yes, it was a great time. Thank you for hosting it.
Yeah, really cool. We talked a little bit about demoing. You said that you have been away to like Essen and other trade shows and stuff. And you are actually now also in charge of the Dust Commandos here in Europe.
So, in charge, I am just trying to get people into this program.
Yeah.
So
you're kind of a recruitment officer.
Yes, I am. A bit like this. I am hosting the emails, so if ever you write emails to me on the commando@warfactory.eu, it's me responding you.
Yeah.
And also it's a lot about communication. If people would ask, maybe can I just don't do a tournament, but maybe a painting competition, for example. This is where I had to say yes or no, and I probably will say yes.
Yeah.
But the commando work on the ground is done by the commandos. It's just me asking them for reports from time to time. If it's time to rank up for them, for example, then it's me coming to play. But usually this is calm for now. So start applying.
Yeah. So what is the actual commandos program all about? Can you kind of explain it to us? Why should people apply?
So you have seen probably in other miniature gaming systems that there is more or less it's a reward program if you do demoing in your or in local gaming clubs, in stores, or also hosting tournaments. That there is not just, oh, you buy a tournament kit and thank you for doing this. There's a little snippet on paper saying it. The idea is that since everyone who ever did this knows it's a lot of work and effort you have to put into it, you get some kind of reward. So some discounts at War Factory, who is hosting it, since in the US it's the Patriots program.
Yeah.
And something like this was a bit missing in Europe. And we just decided to set it up. You will get at some point also the very cool demo team T-shirt. And
that is a good reason to join up. Just the T-shirt itself. So
if you don't have your local Dust club like you with the Viking shirt and you want to dress properly, you should join in. And also, it's always nice to have someone just going somewhere about local conventions you just don't know. And the distributor in Poland might not know your small show. And if you're in the countryside in whichever European country, this could be tough. Also, there's lots of hobby clubs, lots of stores. You cannot know all of them. You won't be able to go there probably. So it's just splitting the work at some point that we all can profit by having more players, and everyone just doesn't need to drive around for miles. But just you can go to a local gaming club and have maybe more than just your best friend playing with your miniatures Dust with you.
Definitely. And I think just Dust is one of those games that are easier than most to demo play because people just are attracted to the look of it. Like we talked about before.
That's very true, but I must admit, if you're doing the public shows like Essen, I am a bit... That's not that I'm upset, but I'm a bit shocked every time. From time to time, you explain the game, or you just explain some ability, special rules, one turn. You explain it. After there's maybe a question, of course, you can just find the wrong words for someone. You explain the second time. Their friend being there with them, playing against them, explain the third time and just don't get it. It is a very easy game. Normally it's easy and grateful to demo, but from time to time you just get shocked. It can be a tough one.
I think, honestly, especially when you go to the big conventions and trade shows like Essen, people's heads are just full of information at that point, so it's hard to get in more. I think that's the main problem, really.
And the funny thing is often you have small boys, they think, oh, it looks cool, and then their father likes the game, and so they start it.
Yeah, I've heard that. Gregor, that usually does the demos in the US, he says the same thing. The young kid is playing the demo, the father is standing there looking, and at the end...
I want this!
Then he had also, I'm going to buy this for you. So, yeah.
So tell your mother it's yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great. So you've been around demoing quite a lot recently now with different trade shows and such, it seems.
So it was last year Essen. Afterwards, I think in February there's in Hamburg in Germany there's the Taktika, which is the biggest German miniature show.
Yeah.
In the meantime, here and there in the local club or in the local gaming store, I did some demoing, but this isn't a big event like this.
Yeah.
So if you're doing 2 to 3 demos, it's a whole different thing. If you can do it in 1 or 1.5 hours, than just doing it 1 to 2 days.
Yeah.
In September, with Marek, I've been to the Spielzug, which is a local convention held by a studio. It's called the Tabletop Basement in Hanover. They are doing commission painting, train building, and they have a YouTube channel. And they are also hosting a convention. And they invited us at Taktika. They were our nice neighbors there.
Really cool.
And like this, we have been demoing there. And Essen again, finally. I hope I don't forget something, but I think that's it for right now.
Yeah.
But maybe more shows to come.
Yeah, so if any of you out there are going to attend some trade shows or conventions in Germany or close to that in Europe, maybe they'll run into you.
Yes, that's bubble. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in that case, don't forget to say hi. Go ahead and treat Johannes nice. He deserves it.
Thank you.
And with that, I would like to thank you so very much for joining me on this show.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we'll see and hear from each other soon again.
I hope so. See you.
Thank you for listening to Dust War Journals. You can find us at dustwarjournals.com or on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dust War Journals. And you can find our Patreon page at patreon.com/dustwarjournals. All music used in this podcast is made by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.